welcome back, our favorite person from over the pond. What I wanted to ask you about your point that you made to talk to us about how the men viewed what they were fighting for and why they were doing it and what it meant to them once it was over.
I think most people who went to war, perhaps not conscripts, but clearly the volunteers, knew quite clearly in their kind of moral compass what they were doing. Germany had invaded Belgium, and we had an agreement with the French that actually we would try and restore Belgium as a neutral country and essentially get rid of the Germans out of France. So there was really no argument about why we were doing it. The answer was basically they were going to be, a term not used in the Great War, a liberation army to liberate Belgium, liberate France, and once that was done, they could go home. No, nobody planned for a Second World War. They were planning this war was the war to end all wars. And although we might think that they were foolish, I'm afraid to say we're still fighting wars to this day.
The idea that the Second World War was a just war and somehow the First World War was a folly, that's not true, is it? People believed as much as they did in the Second War that the First War was a just war. Yeah,
I mean, people at the time believed that the Great War was a just war because Germany was evil. Let's face it, Germany invaded Belgium and France, not the other way around. There was no problem with that. And the other thing was that the many features of the German war machine, everything from unrestricted submarine warfare through to poison gas and flamethrowers, and the bombing of civilians from Zeppelins and later Gothas were an anathema to most people, and therefore they could justify it in their own minds, not least being at the end of it, if we could restore Belgium as a neutral country, that was job done. Second World War, you could argue that it was more justifiable because the Nazis were, to say the least, unpleasant, but that's not why we declare war. We declare war to restore Poland as a neutral country. That doesn't happen until 1989. So we can actually retrospectively say, oh well, we now can say the war was the right war because the Nazis had concentration camps and they murdered lots of people. But if you think about it, that is not why we declare war. We declare war to help Poland, and we fail utterly in that task.
Right. And one of the things I keep coming back to in all my research is this whole notion of lions led by donkeys and the futility of the war and all that. But as you pointed out today, there was a learning curve and a progress to the war. Talk to me a bit about how that happened, why it happened, and where it left us.
I mean, Professor Gary Sheffield, a number of years ago now, said that the British Army, by which he means Empire, Commonwealth, Dominion, had a learning curve, a learning curve like that. And people said, you know, A, that you're wrong, they learnt nothing, they kept doing the same things. Well, I think as I've demonstrated today, whether it's the platoon attack in 1917 or the platoon attack of 1918, combined arms warfare, all arms warfare as we might call it today, mixed in with things like sound ranging, flash spotting, use of armoured vehicles, we learn incredibly quickly. You've only got to think that in 1914 the Royal Flying Corps could hop the Channel, but in 1919 Alcock and Brown could fly from Nova Scotia right to Ireland. You realise actually that the war is an amazing vector for change. Some of it is incredibly sad, it's the casualties. Some of it is incredibly positive. The two things, I'm afraid, go together.
Right. And just tell me a bit about your project at Hawthorne Craters.
Fine.
And what you're doing there and how that's going.
Okay, well, a year ago now, we began work to get permission to lease from landowners Hawthorne Craters near Beaumont-Hamel. That's been achieved, and we've done rather more than that because a large number of the French landowners are now actively involved working with us, and the association is established in France. It's an Anglo-French or Franco-British association, and right now we've improved access. We've actually ensured that the farmers' fields aren't damaged by field walking, and very, very importantly, people can now get into the crater. The next step is to interpret it, to put information panels up, very limited, but to carry lots of information about what happened on that spot really on your mobile phone. So you'll be able to stand on the spot, do comparison images, and really find out who was there on all sides in the war. We're as interested in the Germans as we are in the French, as we are in the British, and actually other forces in the area.
Well, that's great. And Andy, again, on behalf of our Canadian group and all of us World War I fans who love to see you come, it's great to see you back again, and hurry back soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'll be back.